How's it going, Ram fans? I'm Brandon Fairbaurn. In the final Blitz segment of the semester, I'll give you a rundown on how CSU Softball fared last week in their critical doubleheader against Weber State. Plus, I'll give you all the answers for what has quickly become a confusing quarterback situation in Denver. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Starting things off with the Rams softball. They traveled to Ogden, Utah this past weekend to play against the Weber State Wildcats over what was originally a bye week, losing the first game 1-4 before completely turning things around in the second match, blowing out the Wildcats 12-2. And when you look at their stats from the plate, it's clear to see why the Lady Rams had such a drastic difference from the strike zone between the two matchups. With only 4 hits to start the doubleheader off, this was a night and day difference to the second game of the afternoon, where Coach Fisher's squad exploded for 13 hits and a season-high 12 runs. Game 1 started off very slow, with the first point for CSU not coming until the 4th inning, losing 1-4. But like I mentioned, the second matchup of the doubleheader was a whole different story, with the Rams on the attack early and often, starting things off with a 6-hit, 5-run inning to take a 5-0 lead. And after the early onslaught, CSU came back for some more, closing things out for good in the 5th with 6 more runs on 4 hits. Peyton Allen surely helped, hitting 3-run homer to give Colorado State a huge 12-1 advantage. Maya Matsubara led the Rams with a 3-for-3 plate performance, including 2 runs. But in the end, Julia Cabral's pitching was the difference maker in this one, only allowing 1 earned run and striking out 6 batters. After splitting this important series, CSU now shifts their focus back to Mountain West play, where they host a trio of games against conference rival Fresno State over the weekend. And now moving on from collegiate softball to some professional football. The Denver Broncos seem to have a complete roster on both sides of the ball, except for the most important position, of course, which is quarterback. To start the discussion off, let's take a look at last year's starter. Drew Lock is entering his 3rd year in the league and has only played 18 games, recording 23 touchdowns, 18 interceptions, and 3,953 passing yards and a 79.1% passer rating. Has he proved that he's the guy for the Broncos to build around moving forward? With those stats, absolutely not. Now, this doesn't mean he can't take that Josh Allen-like leap in year 3, but after a dismal 2020 season that saw only 16 touchdowns and 15 interceptions, the Broncos have every right to look at other options at signal caller. Let's take a look at some other options for them at QB. They can trade for veteran Teddy Bridgewater, a guy that has already proved his worth in the league, or you could take a chance on young gun Gardner Minshew, who had a brief stint as a Jaguars starter. But if they really wanted a long-term fix at the position, they could trade the house for 3-time Pro Bowler Deshaun Watson, which will make them instantly Super Bowl contenders. But with numerous sexual assault allegations he's currently facing, that really doesn't seem likely. Denver could also look at this year's talented draft class for a QB, or play it safe, sticking to Drew Lock and banking on a large jump in his 3rd year. In my opinion, Deshaun Watson is their best choice, depending on his legal situation, of course. The Texans have to trade Watson before this year's draft to have full value for him. Watson knows he's not playing for the Texans anymore. He will sit out, and the Texans know that, signing Tyrod Taylor in free agency. Despite all this, he had a great 2020 season, throwing for 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 4,823 passing yards, and all this with limited options on a terrible 4-12 team. He really only had Randall Cobb and Will Fuller. Deshaun Watson to the Broncos makes them instant Super Bowl contenders with an elite defense and great offense. I would love to see Watson in Shermer's offense that consists of Jerry Jeudy, Noah Fant, and Cortland Sutton, and Gordon in the backfield. On paper, this is a top 3 offense. This also allows the Broncos to compete in the AFC West that consists of Patrick Mahomes, Derek Carr, and Justin Herbert. The Broncos haven't beat the Chiefs since Week 2 of 2015. That is absolutely embarrassing. Teddy Bridgewater is their next best option to bring in for some competition. This year's draft is obviously loaded with talent. The Broncos are picking at number 9, and their only real option is Mac Jones, but that isn't in the best interest for the Broncos. Bridgewater also plays at a high level with a good supporting cast. He didn't really have that in Carolina, especially with Christian McCaffrey fighting injuries. He had 15 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, and 3,733 passing yards. He played a lot better with the Saints, where he went 5-0, and Drew Brees in absence, where he had 9 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. So if you do put the pieces around Bridgewater, he will get the job done. This will also help Drew Lock perform a lot better with competition. He hasn't had much competition outside of Joe Flacco, and that really isn't saying much. This will show what Drew Lock really does bring to the table. The downside to a Teddy Bridgewater trade, though, is his hefty contract. The Broncos would have to cop up $17 million for Teddy Bridgewater in 2021. You know the Panthers are looking for a trade partner with after the Sam Darnold trade. And the Broncos do have the draft capital to trade for Teddy Bridgewater, having 9 picks. So the ball is in George Paton's court. The NFL is a quarterback league, though. No matter who starts come September, the Broncos need high-level play at the position to even compete in an AFC West full of high-level QBs. They haven't had that since 2014 when Denver had Peyton Manning. Besides this one glaring weakness, their roster is pretty complete across the board. Denver just can't sit and waste this window with all of this young talent due to poor QB play. I can't wait to see what the Broncos do moving forward. Well, Rams fans, that's all the sports action I have for tonight's show and for the last Thursday night sports segment of the spring. Thank you all so much for sticking with me over the course of the semester and throughout this hectic academic year. I hope you've enjoyed seeing the Blitz grow over the many weeks just like I have, but don't go away just yet. Tom Isaacson is up next to give you all of the spice in entertainment for one last time.